Well, g'day and welcome back to the shed. This is part 2 in the series of this NORDMENDE Rigoletto 59, and gee, what a radio it is. I've just about finished the recap on the printed circuit board and some of the others. They're mostly wired point to point and it's been pretty easy so far. And the more I work on this radio, the more I like it. It's so logically set up. I suppose you'd expect that from the Germans, wouldn't you? But yeah, I'm getting to know it, and it's quite a nice radio to work on. I wish I could get my hands on more of these, but they're a bit difficult to get hold of sometimes. Anyway, let's get into it and I'll show you where I'm at with it. Okay, well, I've replaced most of the ones on the circuit board. There's a couple behind there, one here, several underneath. The only one I haven't replaced yet, and I'm just about to, is this red one here. A couple of people have commented that this type of capacitor is unreliable. And the other one I have to deal with here is this paper cap here, and you can't see that, so I'll just show you. This one's hidden down near the volume control, and this is what I've christened the tipton cap, because David Tipton mentioned it in one of his videos. And what it is a 10 meg resistor and a 0.01 capacitor, and I gather that there's some kind of shielding around the outside of them. This leads into the volume control, so that would make some sense. So I'll work something out for that as well. Apart from that, the next thing to do is to replace the power supply capacitors, and then what I'll do is I'll power it up and see what voltages I'm getting, and make note of that, and then I'll replace the Selenium rectifier and try and replicate the voltages that I was getting before. The voltages are also noted on the schematic, so I'll bear that in mind as well. Before I went any further with it, I decided to remove the dial glass. I'm constantly afraid of knocking it or something, and it's just a matter of loosening two little screws here and here, and these clips slide up and out it comes, which is refreshingly easy considering what I've had to do to some other radios to get the dial glasses out. That's kind of green looking around there. I don't know if I can do anything to clean it up. I'll see what I can do, but I kind of doubt it. I'll put that aside somewhere where it won't get hurt. And there it is, 2 nanofarads, 500 volts. I may as well measure it and see what it comes out at. .76 nanofarad. It's not entirely bad, but yeah, I'll replace it with a 2. Okay, well, I've got a 0.0022 microfarad cap, which I guess is 2 nanofarads, I hope so, if my conversion's right. And I put a couple of pieces of wire through the holes here to mark where they are, so I don't make any mistakes. So that will go in there, I hope, yep, and in there. And over there. That looks good. Just nip off the leads. And there's a paper cap I've forgotten to replace, so I'll do that now too. And yeah, this one's just a 0.1 on the aerial. No, it's not. It's on the pickup input. I don't especially want it leaking. There. And that goes on to there. This one's proving a little bit fiddly to replace. I'll just try and get a clamp on it. I suppose I could just put it on the outside, but I do like to put things back exactly where they came from where I can. Okay, now that's not a good solder joint, but it'll hold it in place while I do the other one. And there's the capacitor back where it belongs. And here I was saying how easy this chassis is to work on. Well, it is, I guess, really. I make things difficult for myself, I think, sometimes. I just thought I'd better change this other red cap since I'm told they're unreliable. And this one goes from the output valve, the EL84, through to, this is the second bank of the UKW switch, pin 2. So just looking at the circuit diagram, so on the switching diagram we've got UKW and a second UKW bank here, and this is the one I think it's on because this is where the switch is, and it is on the second pin of that switch, which is 2, and that will be N. So looking at the output tube here is a cap off the plate of it, and that goes to N2 switch. This is the one I think it will be, C142, and it is on the plate of the EL84 and through via this resistor across to B plus here. So yeah, this is going to be a bit critical. It's got voltage on it, so I think I better change that one. Just confirming C182, looking at the table, is confirming C182, there it is. And this is a dreadful print. It looks like a fly spots on it, but it does look like 2500 picofarads in there. I can blow up the original PDF I've got on my desktop computer and verify that, but I think that's 2500 picofarads. In any case, I do think it has to go, so I'll change it now. Now I don't have a 15 picofarad cap, or what is that, that's 0.015 UF microfarads, but what I do have is a 0.01 and a 0.047, so I've twisted them together, and there it is, 14.83, so I think that'll do. And there it is in, so that should be okay. Interestingly, the cap I took out measures 48 nanofarads. It's supposed to be 15, and we of course don't know how leaky it might have been, so it's a good thing that that's gone. Okay, I've got a couple of jobs left to do before we can power it up. One is replacing the power supply capacitors, and I think I'll be able to fit them in over here under the chassis. The other is this coil, which is open circuit, and this is it here, and this wire coming down here has become disconnected, and I think I can see maybe 0.5 millimeter of wire sticking out the end of this yellow tube. I'll see if I can give you a better look at it. I've got this gadget to go on my phone, so I'll try and get some video of it that way. I wasn't able to get close enough with that gadget on my phone, but you can see here that there's possibly a tiny piece of wire hanging out the end of that. It looks a bit corroded. My hope is that I can get a bit of solder on the end of that, otherwise I'll have to take off this plastic tube and clean the wire and attach something to it that way. But this is awfully fine and I have trouble seeing it even with my strongest glasses on. I can see it better on the camera than I can in real life. Well, I think I managed to get a bit of solder from that onto the terminal there. It seems to be stuck. It's quite a tenuous attachment. But we are seeing continuity through that coil. In fact, it measures, what does it measure? 14 arms across the coil. It seems, if I wiggle that peg, it still seems to be robust enough to stay there, and it has. It's not wanting to come adrift. So, look, I think I'll leave it there for now. Leave well enough alone. Okay, I've managed to shoehorn in this 100 UF cap in here. There's the base of the old cap underneath these two capacitors here. And I'll fit the other one in next to it, just not that way around, fit the other one in next to it that way, and I think it'll all fit okay. Just going to put a bit of silicone in here just to hold it in place. That should do it. I took the old capacitor out of here just to move the terminals out of the way while I worked this other one in. And I was trying before to work out which was the 50 UF and which was the 100 UF connection. And nothing on the capacitor seemed to make any sense to me. It was easy enough to figure out from the schematic because the 100 UF goes straight to the rectifier. But on the capacitor here, it says, I guess, Municipal Gehäuse. I guess that means minus is the case of the housing. 50 UF rundes Loch. Now, I couldn't work that out, so Google Translate to the rescue. It means round hole. I'm thinking, okay, of course it goes in a round hole. What does that mean? But once I cleaned it up and desoldered the terminals, one has a round hole and one has an elongated hole. So that's the 50 UF, the rundes Loch. Well, here we go. I'll put in the power supply caps, so I'll just put some power on it and see what happens. I've got the meter connected to B+. On dim bulb, that is on, and I'll put it on, I don't know, TA. And the bulb's lighting up a fair bit, but not too much. No, that looks okay. I've got 240, 250, 260, 266, and the dim bulb's not doing anything, so I'm going to go to full power. It's starting to light up again, brighten up a little bit as the valves start to conduct. So going off dim bulb onto full power, we have 298, 291, 90. I'll try it on long wave because that worked before, sort of. I've got the speaker hooked up, just hooked up to the positive. Very little volume there. don't know why we're not getting more noise out of it. Look, I'll try medium wave just in case that coil's fixed. Okay, so we have medium wave.
So we've given you guys enough time to think about it. From those who have been in the heat of battle, as opposed to those of us who just...
But very little volume.
From what you've seen, and not just about today...
I wonder what I've done.
We can both sit, because I think this is going to be one of those decisions that will have a ramification for the rest of the year. I don't want him to, but I think you'll get a week. Does that concern you for the game? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely it does. But
okay, I'll try FM. Okay, well FM is working, but I'm turning off. I don't know why I don't have any volume. I'll have to investigate a bit further and see what's going on. Well, I think I found the problem with the volume. I didn't have the tone switch plugged in, and so I wasn't doing well without that, but it does seem to be
to the frame to try to capture Geronimo.
Going quite well without it. Medium wave seems to be picking up well now.
Began shortly after the war with Mexico.
There's a lot of noise here in the shed and it's picking up every bit of it. And I haven't got a very good aerial hooked up. I've got one of my multimeter leads plugged into the aerial, plus a bit of wire on that. Now we're getting 282 volts on AM, and on FM it goes down to 274. The schematic says it should be 260 on AM. So I'm not really sure. FM's going well, by the way. But I can't play any music. I got pinged for copyright from my part one of this video because I left it on a station for a little bit too long. So one thing that occurred to me is that this is set at the 220 volt setting. We typically have 235 odd volts here, so I might just try changing that and see what it does to the B+. It might be a better point to work from. Okay, I've changed it to the 240 volt tap. I'm now getting 247 volts on FM, and it's no longer picking that up. And on medium wave it comes up to 248. Oops. That's medium wave.
It's usual to find young white captors among the tribe, and he was captured on a...
That's now settled down to 252.7 or 0.3. It's varying a bit on medium wave. It's supposed to be 260, so that's pretty close. I might just leave it on the 240 volt setting and see if we get close to the 260 it's supposed to have once we have the bridge rectifier in.
They're really remarkable photographs. They're most obvious.
Your home for a convicted criminal? She just let me into her house.
I should add that I've connected up my new workshop speaker beautiful high fidelity unit that I picked up off the Verge or the Nature Strip, whatever you like to call it. And I don't think it's exactly a high-end speaker, but it's better than having the radio speaker on the bench. So there's a couple of little things to do to it. The bass pot is really noisy. The treble one seems to be okay. The volume one seems to be okay. So I'll just clean that out, give it a spray. Clean out all the switches and give the chassis a good clean. Then it's onto the cabinet. I've still got a couple of minor things to do here. I'm still waiting for some 100 picofarad capacitors to replace these two. And I still have the tipton cap to replace. So I'll deal with that shortly. I've taken a break from cleaning before I lost the will to live, and I decided to clean out these pots on the top, and they were a little difficult, so I'll just show you what I did with them. So they were pretty straightforward really, except that these clips that hold the phenolic back on broke off when I tried to bend them back and open up the pot, and so I've had to make up a little metal bracket, and I've glued that on with JB Weld. You should still be able to bend that up and take the back off if you need to service it again. But I found the metal that these are made of is not what I'm used to. They usually have soft metal tabs that you can bend back and then put them back where they came from, but not these ones. They were obviously meant never to be serviced. So this has happened with both of them, and I've dealt with both of them exactly the same. Anyway, the pots now run smoothly from one end to the other, with no gaps or jumps, so that should be good. So one more job I've got to do on this, and that's this capacitor here. It's mounted, it's jammed between the chassis and the volume control. And this is the one I've christened the Tipton cap because Dave Tipton did a magnificent job of replicating one of these on his recent video. Well, actually I think it was about a year ago, on a different NORDMENDE, but a similar setup. So I've decided to do something similar. I've got a resistor and cap made up. I'm hoping to use the shielding from this as he did, but I don't have the printer to replicate the label, so I'm hoping to peel off the original label and reuse that. Let's see if I can cut along the seam here. Of course, it doesn't have to be the original diameter. I can see the foil underneath there, so that's handy. Okay, I'll unstick it from the bench. I've lost some of the writing off that. What a pity. Anyway, let's see what we can do. So this is interesting. This thing has two layers of foil. What's going on here? Going to see. Mega ohms. 9 meg. So this is the 9 meg resistor, and the capacitor was wound around the outside of it. The first thing I need to do, I guess, is try and establish an electrical connection to this foil, because unfortunately I've pulled the wire off. So I suspect this is aluminium foil, and I probably won't be able to solder anything to it. See if it'll take, oh, it takes solder. There we go, look at that. Beautiful. Okay, so I've put a bit of heat shrink on the capacitor wire just so it doesn't short to ground. The only thing I've got to fill it with is some epoxy resin glue, which should be alright for it, I think. It's the 5-minute stuff, so it should set quickly enough. Okay, so I've stuck some tape to the foil, and I'm just going to put it on here and wrap it around. I should have soldered a bit of wire to that foil before I wrapped it. Anyway, I've got this bit of component lead here. I'm just going to try and tack it on. That'll do. There we go. I managed to solder a wire onto the resistor lead rather untidily, but hopefully I can cover that. Okay, so mixing up some epoxy here, and I can probably just spoon it in with this thing, I don't know. That's not very good. Scrape some off the sides. No, go in, that's where you want to go. Right. Okay, so now we try and stick the label on. It's going to be fun. Bit like rolling a cigarette. Been a while since I've done that. When I stuff capacitors, I usually write stuffed and the date on them, just so that no one tries to pull them apart. This one is such a mess, I don't think anyone will ever be in any doubt that it's been messed with. But I thought, well, I'll put something on it anyway. And I thought, well, what's the German for stuffed? So I looked it up on Google Translate, and it says ausgestopft, which is not surprising really. So I'm going to stick this little label on it, and that will also serve to cover the seam in the paper. It's not going to be any kind of work of art. It's a bit of a mess, I'm afraid. There we go, so I'll put that along the join in the paper. And there it is. Certainly no masterpiece, but nevertheless it'll have to do. It is what it is. And there it is in. Not up to Dave's Tipton standard, but gee, that's a pretty high benchmark. The other thing that's just happened while I was working on this is my 100 picofarad capacitors have arrived. I ordered them from DigiKey. Someone called Tube Dude suggested I try them, and they've arrived all the way from the USA in less than 2 weeks, which is quicker than it usually takes to get them from Queensland. So anyway, I'm going to replace those 200 picofarad caps on the circuit board here while I'm at it. Well, it still works, so I guess I haven't done anything too silly. So I guess it's time to get on with the cleaning, and the next thing I'm going to do, just turn it off, is take out this diffuser panel, and it looks like it's just paper. It's hung by a string, top and bottom, which runs around the chassis and is connected by this spring. So, simple matter to take it off, I guess. There we go. Well, it does just look like paper held together with sticky tape. I don't know if this is original or not.
Mowing and watering to make your lawn barefoot ready. It takes Yates weeding for...
Well, the clean-up's going along okay. This diffuser piece of paper cleaned up quite well, so I've just put it back. Was simple enough to take out, but there are 27 different wrong ways of putting it back in. I think I found the right way. It doesn't seem to be catching on anything now. I'm just replacing these little felts that sat behind the dial glass. I've used some felt that I use for gramophone turntables. It's just about 2 millimeters thick, and it will cushion the glass a little bit. The stuff that was there, I don't know what it used to be, but it had deteriorated to the point where it was no good. I've also put 2 strips of felt either side of the Magic Eye tube here. So the glass is cleaned up well. It still has a couple of marks on the outside that I'll have to get off there along the bottom, but it's pretty good. Just a trial fit here. It has to go down there first, and that sits on those 2 little feet, and it has a clampy bit that goes over the top here. And I don't know what I can do about this green corrosion on the gold lining here. This is where the Magic Eye tube used to sit behind it, and obviously moisture has got into the padding behind it, and it's corroded the metallic paint that they've used. I don't know that there's much I can do about it. If anyone has a technique for repairing these, I would like to know about it. But in the meantime, there's not much I can do. I'm going to put it back as it is for the time being, unless I come across a better idea. I've got one more thing left to do, at least on the electronic side of this, and that is replacing the Selenium rectifier here. Various people have ventured opinions about it one way or another. Some say leave it there if it's all right, and it does seem to be okay. But I feel inclined to change it. I just don't feel comfortable leaving it there. Apparently when they fail in a rather nasty way, so I wouldn't want that to happen. Also, the voltages I'm getting on B+, the schematic indicates that I should be getting 265 volts at 65 milliamps, or 260 on FM, I think, with the main selected to the 220 volt tap on the transformer. I was getting 274 volts and 283 on AM, which is a bit high. With it on the 240 volt tap, I was getting 268 volts on FM and 253, which is a bit low. So I'm going for somewhere in between. I want 265 on AM. So I'll have to try and work towards that. I've got a selection of resistors to try in it to bring down the voltage. So we'll go with that. While I'm here, I don't think I showed you the second power supply cap that I shoehorned in there. That was a bit tight getting it in there, but it's gone in well. And here, of course, we have the tipton cap with its little label saying, what is it? Ausgestopped, which is probably incorrect, but never mind. So here we go. Just take the positive lead off first. And that red one is AC. I better write this down. Now, both the B plus leads and one of the AC leads are yellow wire, so I have to be careful not to mix that up. Okay, I've labelled that so I won't get them mixed up. I don't think I would anyway, because the AC lines clearly come in from the top of the chassis from the switch. And this one. And there it is. I would like to replace the bridge rectifier in the same can if I can, so I'm just going to try and remove this. Not as easy as it looks. It prized out of the can here, okay. And it's coming out. Looks like it's well and truly stuck in there. I don't know. Oh no, there we go. Okay, so that's what's inside it. I've never seen anything like this before. It's got 4. Whoops. Okay. So I don't think that's going to be working again. As it happens, the pinouts of the rectifier have got exactly match what's on the can here. So we have positive AC in the middle and negative at the bottom, just like that. Maybe I can get this to sit in the can with that screw hole through there. I'll see if I can do that. That will be good. Well, I gave up on the idea of using the end piece here. It was just, I would have had to solder them on. There would have been a danger of shorting to the case. I don't want that to happen, especially if one of the solder joints gave way. So I've decided just to put it in the end of here. That's plus, so that lines up with the markings on the case. The case will hopefully act as a heatsink, which, well, maybe I'm fooling myself, but it might. So I'm going to put it in like that. I just need to solder the wires on and we're in business. Okay, so I've fitted that inside the case there. I've tacked in a 150 ohm resistor just to start, and we'll see what we get on the B+. I've got the meter connected up to B+. I've got the voltage selector selected to 240 volts here. And while I was at it, I fitted one of Carl's capacitors butte braided cords, and I've earthed that to the chassis here. So here goes. We'll try it out and see what we get. Alright, I'll power it up on dim bulb. So that is on, and I just have to switch the radio on to AM. I'll make it medium wave. The dim bulb's not lighting up like a Christmas tree, so that's something, I suppose. In fact, I didn't see anything from the dim bulb. That's a bit of a concern, but we are getting voltage here. 285.43, dropping slowly. And hearing something from the volume. Okay, so 254. Alright, so I'll go off dim bulb since it seems to be okay. I wasn't on dim bulb. Oh my god, okay. Never mind. One born every minute, isn't there? Could have blown the thing up, and now my meter's fallen. So we're getting 250, everything's falling over here, 252 volts, if you can see that on the meter. And I'll try it on FM, 247. Alright, I'll turn it off and work out what we need to do to bring it up to 265. I'm almost thinking if I remove that resistor, we might get that. I'll just put the meter across that resistor and just see how much we're dropping. Okay, I've got the leads the wrong way round, but never mind. We're dropping, as it warms up. So we're dropping 8.2 volts across 150 ohms. Okay, so with the 8.2 volts that's being dropped across that resistor, even if we eliminated the resistor altogether, we'd still only be getting 260 volts, roughly anyway. So whatever I do, I'm not going to get a satisfactory voltage with the thing on the 240 volt tap. So I'm going to take it off that and put it back to 220 and see how we go with that. Unplug the cord before I mess with it. Okay, I've changed it to the 220 volt tap here, and I'll try it again. So powering up. Whoops, I'm still on the 20 volt range. Here we go. 339, 338, it's dropping, of course, as the tubes start to conduct. Down to 290, 80, 70, 274. Seems to be settling on 274, 273. That's on FM, of course. I'll try it on medium wave. What have we got? 279 on medium wave. That's a bit high. Alright, so I'll do a few calculations and work out what we need. Well, there you go. I thought just out of interest I'd remove the resistor from the circuit and put it back on the 240 volt tap and just see what I got. And there it is, bang on 265, 264, can't quite make up its mind. Although that is on FM, so on medium wave I might get a little bit more. 269, so I'm supposed to have 265 on medium wave and 260 on FM. So we're about 5 volts off. So if I leave it on the 240 volt tap and put in a much smaller resistor, I'll have to work out exactly what value, but I only want to drop about 5 volts at, I think it says 65 milliamps. I'll have to check. I don't know even if 5 volts would make that much difference, but I should possibly put a resistor in there anyway, just to make me happy. Well, rummaging through my stock of resistors, which is not very much, the closest thing I could find was this 68 ohm resistor, and it's only a 1 watt resistor, 1 watt carbon film resistor. Now, by rights, dropping 5 volts at 65 milliamps, it should only pull 0.325 or something of a watt. So it should be all right, but I'm not going to leave that in there. I'm going to go down and get myself a nice fat wire wound resistor that'll dissipate a bit of heat if necessary, although I don't suppose it would be necessary. Anyway, I'm going to do it. So just for the sake of testing, I'm going to plug it in, turn it on, and see what voltage we get now. Gone up to 307, starting to drop, going down, 268, 262, that's 260, 259, 260, but that's on FM, which is exactly what we want. So putting it on AM, we then have still 260. Medium wave, 262 or 3, so I probably want even less than that. I need another 2 volts. I don't suppose it would make any difference. I wonder how the radio is working at that voltage.
Talking about the garden.
Get instant deals on outdoor tools at 2 Kid Depot.
Well, FM seems to be working quite happily, although that's now dropped to 256. I'm wondering if we need that resistor at all. I think we might be better off without it. Having it on the 240 volt tap with our mains voltage at about 235 seems to pretty much compensate for the for the extra voltage we're getting from the bridge rectifier. And perhaps the selenium wasn't dropping that much voltage at all. It may have been working beautifully. It's not now. Now I've pulled it to bits and lost all the bits. Anyway, I'm going to, for the moment, put the B plus back on straight out of the bridge rectifier and leave it on the 240 volt tap and see how we go with that. I'll soak test it for a while, leave it running in the shed for a few hours and make sure that nothing's getting hot or anything like that. But my guess is that it'll be all right like this. So I've had it running on FM now for a few minutes and it settled down to 260, 261 volts and it seems to be stable at that voltage. I'll try it on AM and see medium wave, see what we get. And we're up to 265, which is spot on what the specifications are. So I'm going to leave it there for the time being. I'll just see how it goes for the next few days. But other than that, I don't think there's anything more I need to do here. So here is the dial glass. So I've given it a final wipe over. And it will just sit in there like that, except not upside down. Yeah. That looks pretty much central. Okay, and these little clips slide over the top of it. Very neat arrangement. I wish Philips had come up with something like this. Yeah, how good is that? That looks a little bit low. Is that? Oh yeah, it's come off the bottom, that's why. Now it's sitting where it should. I'll just go around and tighten up the screws from behind and I think we'll be in business. Well, there we are with the faceplate on and it should be going. Just tune across the FM dial.
Down to Robbo, Bob Jane C, Mark.
Oh, 6555. Provincia Republika Srpske od 2017. godine.
When you love someone, you make room.
One thing I noticed, and this is curious, when you turn the bass up, it decreases. So turning the bass clockwise decreases the bass, turning it anti-clockwise increases it. It's hard to tell, and I don't want to play too much music on this because I'll get done for copyright. But that I can't understand. The only work I've done on that pot was I pulled off the back of it, I cleaned it out, and then I had to attach a little tab on it to hold it shut again because the tabs broke off on it. But I put it back, it only went back one way. So I really don't know. I don't know if it's something I've done or whether it's been previously rewired incorrectly. I'm going to have to look into that, but that's a curious thing happening there. Other than that, it's working nicely. So I think there's a bit of cleaning up to do still. I've just given the knobs and whatever a basic clean. I polished the piano keys and they're all working nicely. I gave them a good lube and they don't click. What have I got? I've got long wave and TA on at the same time. Something's jammed. I think I've got the glass. Yeah, I need to work on that. It's popped out at the bottom. Okay. That sounded awful. Well, Well, that's about it for the electrical side of the restoration. I've changed all the capacitors that I'm going to change. The Selenium rectifier's been replaced, which is good. It's working nicely with that, working on all bands, including medium wave, and it sounds really good, even through the shop speaker I've got here, which I don't think does it justice. So I'm going to call this the end of part 2, and we'll come back in part 3, do the cabinet, alignment, and sort out some of these little mysteries that have been plaguing it. So I hope you can join me in the shed for part 3. Thanks very much for watching, and if you like what I'm doing, just hit that subscribe button. Good on you.